I'm Josh Brom, and I'm here to tell you why I've permanently removed one of my videos from YouTube. Last year, I put up my second Science Matters video. It was called Obama Withdraws Funding for Adult Stem Cell Research, Contradicting His Own Speeches. This was about Obama's executive order on stem cell research. He was withdrawing one of President Bush's executive orders on stem cell research, and he also has some language of his own that he put in. And my interpretation of it, in case you didn't see the video, was that not only was President Obama allowing for tax dollars to be funding embryonic stem cell research, but that he was also withdrawing funding from adult stem cell research, which seemed really bizarre, since that's contradictory to stuff that he said in speeches. It's contradictory to where just about everybody stands on adult stem cell research. And so a few months after I put up the video, a commenter named Mike came on, and he both commented publicly, but he also sent me a private message to let me know that he thought that my interpretation of how Obama's executive order would actually affect adult stem cell funding was incorrect. He said he thought it actually works like this, and he kind of pointed out some different things based on some research that he had done. So we dialogued back and forth through email, and made sure that I kind of understood what he was saying, or what his interpretation was. And I promised him I'll either take down my video if it looks like your interpretation is right, or if my interpretation is right, let me do some more research and I'll tell you where maybe you're wrong, and we can go from there. So since then, I've been talking to experts around the country, trying to nail down exactly how Obama's executive order will directly affect adult stem cell funding. And after talking to all the people that I wanted to talk to and doing as much research as I can, I've come to the conclusion that I think Mike was right. I think my interpretation was wrong. And it's kind of tricky because you're trying to make educated guesses on exactly how the wording in an executive order will affect things down the road. But I do think Mike was right, so I want to correct the record. My understanding originally was that because of President Obama was rescinding President Bush's executive order that provided funding for adult stem cell research, that we were losing funding for adult stem cell research. I don't think that's the way this is going to play out. I think what actually happens is, in President Bush's executive order, he gave a special status to alternative ethical types of stem cell research. So you've adult stem cell research, induced pluripotent stem cell research. He basically challenged scientists come up with other ways to help people that don't involve killing embryos. And so, for example, you saw a lot of leaps forward in the area of induced pluripotent stem cell research. Soon after that, scientists were really working on this. And and when it comes to scientific discoveries, there has been so much that has happened in iPSC research in just a few years. You usually see, those many advances happen over many years, and so a lot has happened there. I personally still think adult stem cell research is going to be more practically beneficial as far as therapies go, but we'll kind of see what happens. So President Obama's executive order has removed that special status. Okay, so he's basically put all types of stem cell research on an even playing field when it comes to funding, and anybody can get funding. If a scientist wants to do embryonic stem cell research, he can apply for funding. If someone wants to do adult stem cell research or iPSC research, they can also apply for funding, and it'll be up to someone else to decide, who's going to get what money. So this makes a lot more sense. By the way, this falls directly in line with the way President Obama and just about everybody else that's on the opposite side of this issue from me talks. I've spoken with scientists on both sides of this issue. I've talked to politicians and just lay people. I've never met anyone that is anti-adult stem cell research. The difference is whether you're going to be pro or anti-embryonic stem cell research. Some people think that a human embryo is a valuable entity that should have life rights. That we shouldn't kill for its body parts, and some people think that that the embryo at that stage is really just kind of a clump of cells, and it's not a person yet. It's not something that should have rights or has any inherent value. If you don't believe an embryo has inherent value, then of course you're going to be fine with embryonic stem cell research. And I would too, then that would mean that people like me, if they're right, that would mean people like me are basically crying foul over what's, basically mole removal surgery. That would be crazy. And so if I'm wrong, if a human embryo is just a clump of cells, if it's not inherently valuable, if it's not an entity that we shouldn't be cutting up for its body parts, then you're going to be fine with embryonic and adult stem cell research. You're not going to be suddenly against adult stem cell research. And that was so peculiar about this story was, you know, if my original interpretation was correct, that's bizarre that Obama would you know, not only promote embryonic stem cell research, which everybody expected, but that he was taking away funding from adult stem cell research. That just seemed weird. And suddenly that makes a story worth talking about. Unfortunately, I was in such a hurry making that video. For once, I was trying to get a video up really close to the event that we were talking about, versus usually, you know, we might talk about something a week or more later. And I was cared about that so much that I didn't spend as much time researching this issue as I usually do. And thus, I think if I had spent more time on it, hopefully I would have found that while some people kind of had this interpretation, that probably that wasn't the way this was going to play out. Honestly, it's really embarrassing to me to have made such a stupid mistake, especially on a video series called Science Matters, where I am trying to be scientifically, you know, perfect, or as close to perfect as you can get on something like this. I'm checking my facts. I'm trying to do all this research and make sure that I'm providing you as truthful a perspective as possible. And to make a dumb mistake like this is something that I'm going to be kicking myself in the pants for a long time. I just want you to know that I am more committed to truth than ideology. I don't want to mislead people with my videos. I was talking about this with a pro-choice friend of mine named Jessica, who said it really, really well. We were talking about this issue, and she said, and I'll never forget, she said, I would rather be shown I'm wrong by 1 million people than to be wrong and agreed with. And that perfectly explains the way I feel about this. I truly believe that, and I want you to know that, and I want you to know that, please, if you ever see another video that I do that has a factual error, please let me know. And Mike did it the perfect way. He not only commented publicly, which I'm fine that with the fact that he commented on it publicly too, but he also private messaged me, and that really helps me specifically because, and I don't know if this is a problem that other people have with their YouTube channels, but I don't get a notification every time someone comments on my videos. I think that's the way it's supposed to work, but it doesn't. I think I get a notification about 10 to 30% of the time, based on, you know, kind of what I can tell and observe. And so a lot of times people might even get frustrated because they're commenting and maybe I'm not responding to them. And it might not be that I'm too busy. It might be I've got no idea because I'm not always checking under every single video I've made for new comments. And so if you do find something like that, please send me a private message too, and just let me know. You know, use the private message utility in YouTube, because I always do get an email that has that, and that way I can know what's going on and we can dialogue back and forth. So Mike went about it perfectly. I'm really glad that he brought it up, and he was right, and I'm glad to remove this video. And I'm sorry that if you watched it and were misled by it like a lot of other people were. Thanks for listening. That's all I've got to say. I'm Josh Brom, and this is Science Matters.